Hello guys, I'm Naval Yamal. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Data Master. In this video, we are going to see how to get a resource of ADF, that is Azure Data Factory, and then we are going to do a simple task on ADF. So let me go to the search resource here, and you can just type Data Factory here. And once you type Data Factory, here you get a service called Azure Data Factories. You can click on it, and then there are no data factories here, so you can start creating a new one by just clicking on create data factory. So once you click on it, it will ask you for the subscription. I have a subscription of Azure Pass. I'll keep it as Azure Pass only. Resource group, you can just click on it. So I have one resource group called Databricks, or if you want to create a new resource group, you can just click on create new and create a new resource group. Let me store it in my Databricks only, and it will ask you few details like name, region, and the version. So name, again I'll be using it should be unique across all the data centers. I'll just take uh, NLY ADF, maybe this will work, and I'll keep a region as East US. You can select any region you want. So the best recommendation is, if you're using 2-3 services, you keep all that services in the same region. And version, obviously I'll be using a V2 version. Now I'll not do any git configurations now and not change any network advanced and so on. Let me click on review plus create. So it will take few seconds for validation, and once the validation is done, you will create a resource or a service called an Azure Data Factory. Your validation is passed. Let me click on create. So your deployment is complete, and here you can see your resource, that Azure Data Factory is in the resource group of Databricks, and you can just click on go to resource. So your Azure Data Factory looks like this. So you can just click on launch studio. Once you click on launch studio, you will be redirected to the new window, and your new window will consist of entirely your data factory. So once you open your Azure Data Factory, you can see you get a first option like ingestion or ingest, that is copy the data at scale once or on a schedule. So if you want to copy the data from one source to the destination, we use data ingestion. And if you want to do a code free data pipelines, you can use a orchestrate. And you can also transform your data by using a feature in ADF called as a data flows. You will be seeing that. And suppose if you already have your pipelines on your on-premises SSIS, you can configure this SSIS, that is your manage and run your SSIS package in the cloud. That is your on-premises. You can pull that into your cloud. So this is your UI. So let me explore a few things on the UI. So first is your home tab. Once you click on this home tab, you will be redirected to this same page. Second is author. So once you click on this, you get the factory resources. So what you can do with that? So you can create a pipeline, you have a data set option, you have a data flows option, you have a Power Query option also. So this is about the author. When you click on monitor, so you can see whatever the pipelines you have created, that pipelines, all the detailed statistics can be shown here, like when, what is the pipeline name, when does the run started, when it has ended, what are the duration, what when it was triggered by. You get all the details in the monitor tab. So we will come to this monitor tab once we create a pipeline. Then you have a manage type here. So in manage type, you have link services, integration runtime, and some factory settings, triggers, and all those things. Then you have a learning center. So in learning center, you can click on this quick start and just try to understand how the documentation of Microsoft works. You can watch the tutorials, videos, and all those things. So you can click on it. So it is asking you, it is showing you the same documentation, that is create a data factory. So you can just go whenever you are free on this documentation. But now let me explain you a few things. So whenever you are creating a pipeline in data factory, you need to know few things. So let me explain you that. I'll show the documentation on that. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I will talk about this image. Let me open this. So the first thing you should know in ADF is a pipeline. So what is pipeline? So pipeline is a logical grouping of activities. So in pipeline there might be few activities. It is called as a pipeline. Now what is your activities? Your activities can be anything. For example, you can copy the data. While copying, if you want a transformation, that transformation can also be done. Your data movement can be done. So there are few activities you can perform. So just try to understand, you are creating a pipeline. In that pipeline is nothing but a group of activities. What are activities? A simple example of one activity is a copy activity. You are copying a data from your source to a destination. You can do some transformations in that. So let me take a whiteboard. Just give me 1 second. I hope you can see my screen. So first thing you should know about a pipeline. So let me write it as a pipeline and just imagine like you are creating a pipeline in this way. So pipeline is nothing but it is a grouping of activities. Your group of activities. So one of the simple activity I can just give you. There are many activities. So one of the activity we can talk is of a copy activity. So what the copy activity do? So you have a source. You will copy this data as it is to your destination. So this is your copy activity which is running inside your pipeline. So these are two major things. And after this, we are talking about two more important features or the concepts of ADF, that is your data set and the link services. So what is data set? Data set, I'll just zoom this. Yeah. So data set is represents the data structure giving you a selected view into your data store. So data set, let me talk about data set. So it is just a representation of your data. So if your data is in your source, that representation can be done by using this data set. Then we have a fourth point that is called as a linked service. So now what is a linked service? In a simple and layman's language, linked service is just a connection between your source and your sink. So from wherever you are pulling your data, that will be your link service. That will create a connection between your source to the uh, wherever your data is. So creating a connection, you can just see this symbol. It is just linking, it is just creating a connection between your source to the uh, to your data factory by using this linked service. Now let me copy this and paste it to you so you can just refer this image. And there are obviously many things we have to discuss. So after pipeline and after activities, data sets, link services, then you have your mapping data flows, then you have an integration runtime, and integration runtime we have three types in that, and there are so many things we can discuss. But in this session we will be focusing on these four things. First we'll create a linked service, and from the link service we'll create a data set. In that data set we'll create an activity, and then we'll create a pipeline, and when we will trigger it. So let me explain you again. So first is we are creating a link service. With that link service, then I'll represent that data by using a data set. In the after that representation, I'll just use an activity called a copy activity, where I'll be moving my data from a source to a destination using a pipeline. Now let us take a simple task, a very simple task. I'll create a pipeline. In that I'll create a copy activity, and I have a data set here, and I that will be linked to your source and to your destination. So, or I can call it as a target or destination, you can take anything. So here what we will do, we'll upload one file in our blob or ADLS, and we'll move that data from blob to a ADLS. You can move it from anywhere to anywhere. So what I mean by that, let me come back to my ADF. Yeah, this is my ADF, and I can create a link service from here. I can just go back to the manage tab, and here you get a link service. I can click on create a link service. You can see to which source do you want to link. So you can link it from Amazon, RDS for Oracle, RDS for SQL Server, Redshift, AWS, S3 bucket, Apache Impala, Azure Blob Storage, Cosmos DB. You can see there are so many things, so many things. You can connect your data and you can bring that data into your data factory. From data factory, then we are using one more link service to attach to a target. So now let me give me 1 second. I'll just take few things here. I'll just think. This is my blob storage. Okay, I have created in my previous video. This is my blob storage, and if you know, blob storage won't give you a hierarchical namespace. So let us imagine that we are getting a data here. So let me upload one data here. Let me upload one CSV file here. So how to upload in a CSV file? Just you can go here, upload, click on that file, and it will be uploaded automatically. You can see here employee CSV file has been uploaded in your blob storage. Now what I'll do, guys, this is our, let us imagine that your client data is coming inside your blob storage. Please listen carefully. It is inside your blob storage, that is employee CSV. You can click on it and you can just look at this edit and see all the data. Yeah, these are your 13 rows inside your data. Now once you have your data in your blob, what we are doing now, a simple task, we are performing a very simple task. We want to move our data from our input container from the blob storage to, we will take one more storage account. You can see storage account. This is my SANLY Databricks storage account, and this is your ADLS account because it is having a hierarchical namespace as enabled. So what I am trying to do, guys, I am trying to move my data or copy my data, not move actually, from blob to ADLS. Now you might say that this might be a very simple one. Yeah, I'll tell you the procedure, but in real time your data might be anywhere, like your S3, your SQL Server, your AWS, RDS, your Redshift. Your data can be in any way, and where you want to store, you can store it in any form. Also you can store it in your ADLS, in your SQL, in your Synapse data warehouse. You can store it wherever you want. Okay, but for this demo we are just using a blob, and we are copying that data from our blob to ADLS. Okay, yeah. So we are copying a data from our blob to ADLS. So what is the first thing? First thing is I want a LS, that is linked service. I want to make a connection from your link service to a blob. This is my first link service. Second, I'll create one more link service for my target. I'll call this as my source, this as my target. So I'll create one more link service that will connect to my ADLS. So let us create two link service, and again I'll come back to this whiteboard. Let me go back to my data factory, and now how to create a link service, that is your connection to your blob and your ADLS. Let me go back to the home tab. Actually you are here, so you can go to your manage tab, and from here you can see the link service. Click on the create a link service, and you can just search for what services you want, which service do you want to link. So there are so many options, guys. I want you to just go and see what all options you have. So but now in our case we want to put the data from blob storage. You can see blob storage, click on it and click on continue. You can give a good name actually. So let me give a good name. So I am just giving link service underscore blob. Okay, so this will help me to find out that okay, I am creating a link service to my blob. Now let me select the integration runtime. For now let us keep as integration runtime as auto resolve integration runtime. We will talk about that integration runtime separately. Now it is asking me like what would be the authentication type. So let me keep it as a account type, and from the subscription I'll select the Azure pass, and it is in my same Azure pass, so it will just show me all the storage accounts. So if you remember, my storage account name of the blob is SANLY blob storage 123. I'll click on it, and just you can click on a test connection. So if everything is good, it will show you the connection, that the connection is successful, and you can see that green tick. It means that the connection is successful. Now I'm creating a link service. Let me click on this create. So once you click on it, yeah, a link service has been created. Now I want one more link service for my ADLS because I'm moving my data from blob to ADLS. So for that, let me create one more link service. Now my target destination is ADLS. ADLS. Oh, let me check where is my ADLS. Yeah, it is Azure Data Lake Storage. Let me click on continue. And now I will pick the same subscription, and it is asking me which account is your ADLS, that is SANLY Databricks account. Let me click on test connection. If my connection is successful, then I can create my link service. You can see. Now, before that, oh, I did not rename it. I did not rename it. No worries. You can see Azure Data Lake Storage. No worries. So what I'm doing, guys, I'll repeat again. So I'll go back. In my storage account, there is one container called as an input container. There is one file. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. In my blob storage, there is one container called a input container. In that I have one file called a employees table.csv. I want to move this file to the blob ADLS. In ADLS, let me show you. In the container, I have an input container. In that I have a raw file. In that raw file, I don't have anything. Okay, you can just see I don't have anything in the raw directory. Now that employee file will be seen in this raw container. We will do that now. Come to my data factory. Now we are done with, okay, let me come back to my whiteboard. We are done with the link service. Now the second step is we are going to create a data set that will represent the data which is in your blob. So let me go and create a data set first. So you can create a data set from author and tab. You can click on this data set. Or once you create a pipeline, in that pipeline it will ask you to select the data set. You can create a data set from there also, but for the first time let us do it from here. Let me click on these three dots and click on new data set. So where is your data exactly? It is in my blob. So let me scroll down and let me click on blob storage. It will ask you what is the data type of your data. So let me go back. In my blob storage, I have a data which the type of data is CSV, but let me show you, it is .csv. Let me come back. It is CSV file. Let me click on the CSV file. Let me click on continue. Then it is asking me for the name. What name do you want? So again, for a best practice, I'll just use data set underscore blob. So this is a data set which I am creating for my blob storage. Now it is asking me for the link service. Obviously, when you want a data set, it will ask you through which link service you want to connect this. I want to connect this by my ls blob. This is the link service what I have created. Let me click on this, and when you click on this, it will ask you for the path. Hey, where is that path exactly? What is the container name? What is the directory name? What is the file name? So for that, let me browse it directly, and here when you link it, you can see all the containers inside your blob. Here, let me click on this. In the input, let me click on okay. This is a employee CSV. Let me click on okay. So there is no directory because obviously in a blob there is no directory. Input container and the table name is employee CSV. So when you are representing as a data set, do you want the headers for that? If you want the headers, you can just enable this or you can disable this. But let me check in my employee CSV. Wherever you have a CSV file, always you need to take as a first row as a headers. Yeah, these are my headers. I want to keep this and just click on OK. So I am creating one data set. You can see this data set is for the blob. Now I have to create one more data set. You can see I have to create one more data set that will represent or that will copy the data from this data set to data set, and then it will go to my ADLS. So I have to create one more data set in for my ADLS account. So you can click on this, click on new data set. So where do you want, where is your target? My target is my ADLS. Let me click on ADLS, click on continue. And now, which format do you want that data to be stored? Do you want it into the Parquet file? Do you want that in a binary text? Whatever, wherever you want, you can keep it. So many organizations convert it to the Parquet format. The reason is Parquet file stores the data into the columnar format, and it will save a lot of space. It will reduce the size of the data by using some compression techniques. But now if I convert it to the Parquet file, you won't able to see that data again. So let me click on CSV and proceed further. So it is asking you me the name. So let me give this name is for dataset ADLS. Okay. Now if it will ask you my link service, I have created this link service for my data lake. I'll just click on it and it will ask you where do you want to store that file. Can you give me a path? Okay, let me give the path is inside input. In input there is one raw folder, if you remember. Okay, I want to store my employee file inside this raw. Yeah, then let me click on OK. So it will give you input. Inside input it will go inside a raw. Then I'm not giving any file name, it will select by default. Let me click on OK. So now coming back to my whiteboard, here we have done with the link service, data set. Now I'm creating a pipeline. So this pipeline, in this pipeline, I'll take one activity called a copy activity, and I'll schedule this, or maybe I'll run it manually to copy the data from my source to a destination. So this both were my blob. Now let me go to the pipeline, click on this, click on create a new pipeline. So you get a new tab here, and now these are all the activities you can take inside your pipeline. So this is your pipeline, guys. If you want a more space, you can just remove this. You can see. If you want, you can keep the properties also. But this is your, let me resize this all. So this is your pipeline. Inside this pipeline you can take any activities. So there is a lot of activities you can do. A copying a data, you can use a data flow. So what is data flow? Data flow is a feature of ADF that uses all the transformations without writing any code. You can do all the transformation here. You can use even Synapse notebook in this ADF. Even you can use a Databricks notebook also, which we have already seen on the Databricks side. You can do some machine learning experiments, and you can do a power query. You can get out your HD insight like your Spark or Hive or Hadoop. You can do lot of things here, guys. Trust me, you can do lot of things. But now for the very basic, let me just copy it. So what you have to do, you can just drag and drop. Just look at this carefully. Drag and drop. So once I click on drag and drop, I have dragged this copy data and put it here. Now you are getting some options here. When you open this, you have to give a name for this, but let me keep it as a copy data one. And there are so many options here: timeout, retry, and so on. Now I'll not go in detail. Maybe in some other sessions we will do that. It is asking you for the source. Come to the source. What is your source? Your source is your blob storage. Let me click on this. It will ask you for the data set, that is your data set that we created for our source. Hey, our source is your blob. Let me select that. Once you click on it, then again it will ask you a few options, but now let me keep it very simple. you can preview data. Like, let me see what the data is. You can click on this, you can see the data. Yeah, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is a data what I had in my blob. I want to copy from the source to the sink. So let me click on sink, and it is asking me that select the data set you want to store this source. I want to store it in my DS ADLS. Then it is asking me a copy behavior. Do you want to flatten the hierarchy? If it is JSON file, I would have done this. But now let me keep it very simple. And you have so many options. Now I'm not going into that. Then you have a mapping option. So do you want to import the schema that is same in your CSV and you want the same schema, or do you want to do some mapping by manually? You can do that. Now let me go to the settings. You have so many options here, and you can see I have created a data set. I have created a link service. Then I created a pipeline. In that pipeline, I am having one copy activity. Now, how much does this cost? If you compare it with your Databricks, in Databricks, before we write any notebook, it will ask you to create a cluster first, because you have to start your compute. You have to start your computer first, and then you can start your like run your code. But when it comes to ADF, you can do everything. Now, if I want to trigger it, or if I want to debug this, if I want to trigger this, you need a resources. That is, you need a compute. So behind the scene, ADF also uses a Apache Spark to do this. So you are doing a copy activity, you are creating a link service, everything you are doing. So behind the scene, the code is a Spark only. Apache Spark is working for you. You need to remember that. So you start your virtual machines, you start your cluster. Obviously, there will be a pay for that. You have to pay how much you are using. So for now, we are not going into deep about that. Let me just click on the validate. So let me click on validate, and once you click on validate, you can see your pipeline has been validated and there are no errors. There are no errors. Now let me click on the debug. So once I click on the debug, you can go back. You can see I have clicked on this open space. I'm not click on a property. I clicked on here, and here you get a output. In output, you can see there is one activity called a copy activity, and the status is queued. That is working. It is copying. It is copying the data. So at what time it has started and so on. What is the integration runtime and so on. And now you can see the output, guys. It is succeed. Succeeded means okay, your pipeline has been executed successfully. You can click on this small but like a glasses symbol. It will show you a detailed one, like okay, this was your source was in your blob storage, it has moved to your ADLS. It took zero point 0.5 seconds to copy the data, and you can see all the details, how much data it took, how much data it has written, how much bytes it was, and so on, how many files they had, and so on. Now I have to check this. I have to check this. So I can go back to my Azure account. Let me go to the home, and then let me click on SANLY Databricks. In this Databricks, I have a container input raw, and you can see your employee table.csv has been copied. Now I have run this pipeline manually. I have done this debug, but I want to make it automate. I want this pipeline to be run at a scheduled time. Can I do that? Yes, you can add a trigger. So let me click on the trigger and click on trigger now. It will run it now manually, or you can click on new and it can choose a trigger. I will create a new trigger, and here it will ask you. There are types of trigger, guys. Event based trigger is there, schedule trigger is there, tumbling window, event, and so on. We will talk about that, but for now I want to schedule it. Maybe I want to schedule it at this date and at this time, and at on this time zone. You can just click on OK. So the trigger will be set up, and at that particular time your pipeline will be triggered. So let me cancel out this. Now let me go back. Now I have not saved this anywhere. So to save all this, whatever link services I have created, whatever data sets we have created, whatever pipeline we have created, if you want to save all this, click on just publish all. Publish all. So it will, once you click on publish, it will save all this in your data factory. So if I come to my home tab also, and suppose if I come after few minutes, few weeks and so on, if I come to my author tab, your pipeline will be here. You can see all the properties, your data sets will be here, everything will be there. It has been saved now in your data factory. It has been saved. So this was a simple hands-on how you can move your data from your source to a target, from your blob to ADLS. This might not be a real-time use case. In real time, you may have various sources, you may have different targets, you may have on-premises to cloud. There might be any different scenarios. But in this session, I have explained you in a simple term how to move your data from blob to ADLS by using a simple copy activity. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this basics of ADF. Thank you for watching again. Keep learning.